Get ready to elevate your website to new heights. Today, we are going to build modern 3D website design with scrolling animation. Trust me, your website has never looked this good. So what exactly is 3D website design and why is it so popular right now? Well, think of it as adding depth and dimension to your website, making it more visually engaging and interactive for your visitors. And when you combine it with scrolling animations, you can create a truly immersive experience that will set your website apart from the rest. Let's take a look at the project demo. Without further ado, let's start. Hello and namaste everyone. This is Bezier with Coding Design. Welcome to our channel. If you are new here, please be sure to hit that subscribe button. Here I am inside my Visual Studio Code. As you can see, there is a folder named videos, and within that folder I do have 2 different videos. Similarly, there is also another folder named images, and within that folder there are 4 different images. Now let's create index.html file. Within that, if I type exclamation sign and hit that tab button, then you will get HTML boilerplate. Now let's change the title. For the title, I am giving build a modern 3D website design with scrolling animation. Now within the body tag, let's create div with class name container. And within that, I'm creating a section element with class name layer. And again, inside that, let's create div with class name content. So that class layer, it represents the layer or the element that we interact with in our 3D space. And talking about that class content, that will hold the each and everything. I mean the content that we will be providing to that specific layer, if that does make sense. Now I want to create as one heading. You can just select this code and duplicate it so that we can create different layers, and within that content we'll be providing different elements based on our requirements. So I'm giving the image tag, and for the source let's give images. So from that images folder we are giving this p1.jpg image. Now with the help of live server extension, let's open this index.html file in our default browser. As you can see, this is the result. Similarly, now you can just select this code and duplicate it. You can just change the different elements. In our case, instead of that image, I want to give video element. For the source, let's change that images to videos, and let's give b1.mp4 file. Again, I'm adding another layer. Now let's provide some styles for these elements. For that, let's create a style.css file. Just below the title tag, let's give the link for our style.css file. Within that, for the universal selector, I'm giving margin and padding of 0. And for the box size into border box. Now with the help of this code, you'll be able to prevent browser default margin and padding, as well as with the help of that box size into border box, you'll be able to get rid of the hassle from the complex calculation whenever you are adding specific padding and border to any specific element. Similarly, I just want to create different variables within our root pseudo class so that in future it will be easy to maintain our code. For the first variable, I'm declaring this base color variable where I am storing dark bluish color, and for our text color, let's give white color. And also let's create another variable named BVUnit, which represents viewport unit. And within calc function, let's perform some addition operation. I'm just adding 1 viewport width with 1 viewport height and 1 rem, and that 1 rem will help you to dynamically change the unit, the value based on your web page font size. So why am I creating this variable? That viewport unit, it is the combination of viewport width, height, and also the font size. So now with the help of that 3 combination of different units, if you want to give responsive element, we can use any specific value and multiply with this viewport unit. Although CSS provides ratio property, I'm using separate CSS ratio variable, and let's give 16:9. So now with the help of this ratio variable, we will control our images and the video's height and width, the dimension. Now let's create width variable, and within that calc function, I'm giving 15, and let's multiply with that viewport unit. And now let's create a height variable. Within that, let's give calc function and let's multiply width variable by our variable name ratio. So it will help you to maintain the specific height and width based on that ratio. Now similarly, for our HTML tag, let's give the font size. I'm giving 62.5%. So what does it mean? I'm dividing 10 by 16, and if you take it to 100%, that will give you 62.5%. As you know, 1 rem is equal to 16 pixels. So when I'm dividing 10 by 16, that means I'm converting that 1 rem is equal to 10 pixels. So why am I doing that? Because later on, when I'm providing different values, I'll be providing those values in rem, so that values will be dependent upon this font size. So if I convert it into 10 pixels, I can easily know like what kind of value I'm providing. Okay, otherwise I need to calculate that as 16 pixels, and based on that value, like it's a bit difficult to calculate. Now for our body tag, you can give background color, and I'm giving that base color, and for our text color we can give same CSS variable name color. Now let's declare two classes, portrait and landscape. And for our portrait class, we are giving width and height. Again, I'm using that same CSS variables. And for our class landscape, we'll provide for width to CSS variable height, and for our height to CSS variable width. So we are just interchanging that value. So now for each and every image element, we'll provide class name of portrait. And for our video, we'll give class name of landscape. So in your browser, you can see this is the exact size of image and the video element that I want. For our body, I'm using their font shorten property. For the first value, which represents the font weight, I'm giving 200. For the font size, within that calc function, let's multiply that 0.9 with CSS variable name viewport unit. So now you'll be able to make your font size responsive as well with the help of that viewport unit. And also let's give the font family. I'm giving Poppins. If it's not available, we'll give sans serif. Now in your browser, you can clearly see the changes. Now it's time to style div with class name container and section with class name layer. For the class container, let's give position of fix. For the width and height, I'm giving 100%. As you can see, section with class name layer, which is the children of our div with class name container, that makes the class name container parent element. So for our parent element, if we provide transform style to preserve 3D, so now all that 2D elements, they will be able to maintain their position in 3D space. And also let's give the perspective of 1600 pixels. It is nothing but the distance between your eye and object that you are looking at. Now let's style section with class name layer. I'm giving position of absolute. And for the height and width, I'm giving 100%. So now you can just group these elements, okay? And for the class layer, let's give left and top to 0. And also I'm giving display to flex. Justify content center, that will bring your content horizontally center. And in order to bring vertically center, you can give align items to center. Now let's style that as on heading. I'm giving text transform to uppercase. And for our font size, once again, within that calc function, I'm multiplying 2.5 with that same CSS variable name viewport unit. So that will help you to create responsive font size. And for the font weight, let's give 200. Similarly, let's style this paragraph element as well. I just want to give width of 40 characters. And also for our image and video element, if they are of different dimension, then you won't be able to exactly, get that specific width and height. So let's use that object fit to cover. And also let's give object position to center. Now you can see there is no any specific changes. It's because the source that I have provided for the video, which is already in 16:9 ratio, and same goes for the image in the ratio of 9:16. Similarly, I just want to give some rounded corners around these images and video element. So for that, let's give border radius of 1.4 rem. Later on, we'll add extra elements, but right now let's jump into the JavaScript code. I'm creating script.js file. Just above the end of body tag, I'm creating script tag. And for the source, let's give that same script.js file. And within that file, we are going to select this different section element with class name layer. Therefore, let's create constant variable name layers, and I'm assigning document.querySelector. Remember, I'm using there all because I want to select each and every section element with class name layer. And now let's create another constant variable name layer spacing. And I'm assigning there -1200, so that represents the space between the layers in z-axis. And also let's create another constant variable z values. Initially let's assign it to empty array. So within this array we are going to store each and every z values of layers. Okay, you may be confused like what are these z values, layer spacing. I'll try my best to explain it. Suppose you are looking at any specific screen. In our case that might be web page, and there will be different layers. That layer represents section element with class name layer, and between the different layers there will be specific spacing, and they will have different z value based on its distance from the screen. So now just need to keep it in mind that this z value is really important because that will give you some kind of 3D as well as that parallax effect. In order to get that specific layer, for that you can write layers dot for each, and within that callback you can give there any variable name, but I'm giving there layer, so that represents that specific layer. And along with that you can pass the index that represents the position of that specific layer. And now let's calculate the z value based on the layer's position or index. So I'm giving there layer spacing plus, we are adding same layer spacing, and we'll multiply with that index or the position of layer. Hold this value can be pushed within our array. For that you can write z values dot push. So now each layer they will have different layer spacing based on its position. So now you can apply that z value. For that now we need to apply that CSS property transform. For that you can write layer dot style dot transform, and I'm assigning backtick. This is what you call template literals. So with the help of this, you'll be able to easily manipulate your string and the variable that you have declared. So within that translate z, in order to provide the variable, you can write there $curly bracket. And before that, let's provide the CSS unit pixels. But remember, there mustn't be any kind of white space or anything else. Otherwise, it won't work. Now within that curly bracket, you can pass that same z values array. And in order to get any specific values based on that layer position, you can give their square bracket index. Now in your browser you can clearly see the difference. So now based on the layer position, we are providing different layer spacing for specific layers, but you won't be able to see that drastic changes. It's because we are just changing our z values. If you change x and y value, in that case you will be able to see much more difference. Now when you scroll your page, we need to change our z value based on that scroll unit. Okay, but as you can see in our browser you won't be able to scroll our page. So for that, for our body, we are manually giving height of 1700 pixels. In your browser you can see you'll be able to get that scroll bar. Now whenever you are scrolling your page, at that time we need to listen to that specific scroll event. So for that you can write windows.add event listener. So we are listening to the scroll event, and for the second parameter you can pass that callback. I am naming it as handle scroll. Now we need to create that specific function named handle scroll. As soon as when you scroll your page, I just want to change that z values of our layers. So for that you can take this whole code within that function. Now as soon as when you scroll your page, we need to dynamically change that z values. So for that, now let's create constant variable name current scroll position, and I'm assigning window.scrollY. With the help of this code you will be able to get the scroll value. Let me show you in the console. In your browser you can see as soon as when I scroll my page, you will be able to get this different scroll value. So now we need to update that z values based on our scroll value. For that you can write z values. Within that square bracket you can pass the index. That means that z values for specific layer, you can assign their z values plus, or instead of that you can use the shorthand technique. You can write their plus equals to, and you can pass that same current scroll position. Similarly, whenever we are providing that translate G, at the time we are just giving their G values. So now we can just store that code within separate variable. I'm naming it as current G value. And now instead of that code, you can pass that variable name current G value. And in your browser, you can see when you scroll, you will be able to get that zoom in effect. But if I refresh my browser, you will get that previous initial position of your layers. In order to prevent it, as soon as when our web page loads, we'll call our function name handle scroll. Now you won't be able to get that previous result. But again, there is another problem. Whenever you are scrolling, you will be able to get that zoom in effect. But when I scroll my page, we won't be able to get that previous positions of our layer. So what am I going to do is that we are going to track the previous as well as that current scroll position, so that you will be able to provide dynamic value based on that scroll value. So let's declare another variable name previous scroll position. And initially I'm assigning layer spacing, so we'll divide this layer spacing by layers.length. So now with the help of this code, you will be able to get the total number of layers. So you can give any specific number. So now as soon as when you scroll your page, at that time we'll change our that previous initial scroll position to our current scroll position. But that's not enough. We need to get the difference between previous scroll position and the current scroll position. So for that, once again, let's create the constant variable name scroll delta, and that represents the difference or the change in our scroll value. Now you can take that scroll delta variable, and instead of that current scroll position, we can give that scroll delta variable. It's not working. Okay, there is some error in our console. It's because we need to declare that variable just before that invocation of function. Okay, now you'll be able to zoom in and zoom out, but I just want the reverse effect. Therefore, in order to achieve that, you can multiply that scroll delta value with negative value, and for that I'm taking that same code, which is the layers.length, that gives the total number of layers that we have. And once again, in our browser, you can see this is exactly what I want. But now when you scroll your page, at that time when you reach to any specific distance between your screen and your layer, I just want to give some kind of fade in or fade out effect. So in order to achieve that, we can take the help of that variable name current G value, and also we can take another variable name layer spacing. So for that, let's create another variable name is layer hidden, and I'm assigning current G value. If our current G value, if that is greater than, so now you can take that and the variable name layer spacing, and I'm dividing by 4. So now with the help of that 4, or you can give any specific value, you will be able to control the speed of your fade in and fade out effect. But as you know, within that layer spacing variable, we have stored their negative value. Now we need to make it positive. For that, you can use their math.avs function, which will give you the absolute value, or instead of that, you can divide it by any negative value. Now let me show you in the console what kind of value am I storing within this is layer hidden variable. As soon as when I scroll my page, in your console, do you see that at a specific point you will be able to get their true boolean value? So that is what we are exactly looking for. Now finally, you can write something like layer dot classlist dot toggle. So now with the help of this toggle method, you will be able to add as well as remove any specific class name for your layer. So in our case, we are giving the class name of hide. And for the second parameter, we can give their boolean value, and based on that boolean value, you will be able to provide that class hide. So in our case, you can pass that variable name is layer hidden, but in your standard CSS file, as you can see, we haven't given any kind of class hide. So let's give it now. For the class hide, let's give opacity of 0, and also I'm giving visibility to hidden. Now in my browser, if I scroll, did you see that when your layer reaches to any specific position of our screen, it will be totally invisible? Okay, there's some sudden changes, but I want some kind of smooth transition. For that, first of all, let's generate this transition function. In my case, I'm gonna use cubic Bezier, so let's generate this code. Okay, by the way, I'll give you the link in the description below. You can visit that website and you can generate any specific cubic Bezier code. You can control that speed of transition and you can copy the whole code. Okay, as you can see, with the help of JavaScript code, we did change our transform, and also we did keep their class hide. So we are changing their CSS property, which is the transform and opacity. So for the class layer, you can give their wheel change, and I'm giving their transform, opacity. So with the help of this, you will be able to inform your browser that in future what kind of changes are we expecting. So why is it important? With the help of this, you will be able to improve rendering speed. Now let's give the transition. Just a moment ago, I have just copied that QB Bezier code. Now you can paste it here. Let's check it in our browser. Now you can see some kind of smooth transition, but I want to just give the different transition function for our opacity. So for that, again, within the same line, you can give the comma opacity, and for the duration, I'm giving the same duration of 0.7 second, and for the timing function, let's give age. Okay, this is exactly what I want, but I just want to give some kind of transparent background for any specific layers so that all the layers behind it, they will be barely visible. So for that, for the class layer, whenever you are giving class name of BG at the time, let's give the background color. I'm taking the same background color that we have given for our body tag. So you can copy the same code and paste it down there. And for the last 2 digits, I'm giving DE. Once again, let's select this code and duplicate it. And let's give another class name of BG2, which will be a bit more transparent than previous color. So I'm changing it to 6C, so which is the hexadecimal code that will help you to control the alpha value or the transparent value of that color. Now you can give the same class BG2 for that layer. Now you can see it is not clearly visible, or you can compare that previous result and the current result. If you just love this effect, you can change any specific content for any specific layers and you can just leave it there. But I just want to give some specific position for any specific layers. So for that, based on our class portrait and landscape, we'll be giving different positions. So for the class portrait, let's give the left. And for the left, before that, we need to provide any specific position for that specific element. So for the div with class name content, we'll be providing different positions. Based on that, you'll be able to position your content. So let's give the class name of portrait right. So now for the class content, which is within the section element with class name layer, let's give position of relative. Now for the left, we are not giving any specific value. For that, we'll take the CSS variable name width. So let's create another variable name portrait position. And within that calc function, you can pass that same CSS variable width. And for the left, now you can pass that same variable name portrait position. But in CSS, as you know, when you are providing any positive left value, instead of taking to the left, it will take your element to the right side. But we just want the opposite, okay? So for that, you can, again, within that calc function, you can multiply with negative value 1. Or instead of left, you can give right. For now, I just want to leave it as it is. First of all, let's select this code and duplicate it. And also for the class portrait right, instead of that left, let's change it to right. As you can see in our HTML file, for the debit class name content, I have given the class name of portrait right. And in your browser, you can see, although I have given their right position, but it is taken to the left side. So this is what I was actually talking about. And also I want to just take its half width of that image element, okay? So for that, for our portrait position CSS variable, you can divide that width variable by -2. Why am I giving there -2? Just a moment ago, I have already explained you about this. So if you have skipped video, I'm sorry, you can just go back and watch it. So did you see that in your browser? This is the exact position of image element that I want. Now let's give the separate CSS variable for our landscape position. You can duplicate the same code. And in your HTML code, for any specific element that you have given for class of landscape, for that element's parent element, we'll give the class name of landscape position, similar to that portrait right position, okay? So in our case, let's give the class name of landscape left. But in our standard CSS file, we haven't given any kind of CSS code for that specific class. So for the class landscape left, let's give the left of that same CSS variable named landscape position. Okay, I have forgot to change their CSS variable. Instead of that width, we need to change it to height. In your browser, did you see that? Our video element that is taken to the left side. Now between these layers, I want to give some kind of gap. For that, once again, let's create another variable named gap, and I'm assigning through rem. Now for our portrait and landscape position, you can add that extra CSS variable named gap. Now you can see there is no any kind of gap. Oh, it's because we need the negative value. So instead of that plus, now you can give minus. That's because we are dividing our height and width by -2. So that will give you the final result in negative value. So when you add another new positive value, again that will decrease that value. Okay, so instead of that plus, I'm giving the minus. Once again in your browser, did you see that? Now you'll be able to get that gap between these layers. I think our video element that is a bit less visible. So instead of that Bezier class, let's give it to class Bezier2. Okay, now it's more visible. Now I just want to play our video. Okay, I have done some mistake there. Our video element, they have the closing tag as well, so just give it that. And let's give different attribute for our video element. First of all, let's give autoplay. That will help you to automatically play your video. And also let's give controls attribute, which will help you to give controls for your video player. And in your browser, you will be able to hear that sound. So in order to mute, you can give the muted attribute. And continuously I want to play that video, so for that you can give another attribute named loop. So once again in our browser, let's check it out. Now did you see that our video that is continuously playing and it looks really cool? If you love this style of h1 heading, then you can keep it the same, but I just want to change it. For another h1 heading, let's give the class name of light. You can duplicate the same code, and for the h1 heading with class name light, let's give the font width of 200. And for just h1 heading, let's give font width of 300. So this is exactly what I want. Now you can see there are two words, so I just want to break that word. Okay, so in order to do that, you can give width of min content. So now it will take the maximum width of specific word from that specific line, and it will break it into lines based on your total number of words. But as you can see, there is much more gap. So in order to prevent that, let's give the line height of 1. Okay, this is exactly what I want. But if you scroll down there, you can see there isn't any kind of gap between our heading and the paragraph. So for that, for our h1 heading with class name light, you can give the line height of 1.7. In your browser, you can see now you'll be able to get that proper space between the paragraph and our heading. Now let's take out this text to our left side. So in order to give that proper position, let's give extra class text left for the div with class name content. And in our installer.css file, for the class text left, let's give the left. And within that calc function, I'm multiplying -12 with our CSS variable name viewport unit. Similarly, let's add another layer with image element. And again, I'm giving portrait left position. In your browser, you can see on your right side, you'll be able to get that portrait image, but in your browser, it's clearly visible. So for the layer that is with the video element, let's give the class of Bezier. Okay, this is exactly what I want. Now, once again, let's add same portrait image along with that heading and paragraph, but this time I'm giving the layer content with class name of TextWrite. So in our installer.css file, for the class TextWrite, you can just select this code and duplicate it, and instead of that left, you can change it to right. Okay, now our heading and paragraph, they are taken to right side, and also for the h1 heading, we need to give their class name of light. And now you can see the portrait image, they are not in the proper position. Why is that? I don't think there is any kind of mistake.
15 minutes later.
Okay, I just misspelled that content. Okay, now this is exactly what I want. Now for the last time, let's add two more layers. I'm adding layer with video element and also image with some text layer. Okay, there are some few lines of code, so I'm not explaining it. Okay, there you go. And also, instead of this single h1 heading, I just want to give multi-slide of text animation. So again, I have already created a separate video on this topic. You can check out that video. The links will be given in the description below. It looks something like this. But now you can see you will be able to get that scroll bar, but in case of mobile view and tablet view, I think that is not necessary. We can hide that scroll bar. For that, let's use the media query. I'm writing @media screen, and I'm giving maximum width of 1024 pixels, and with the help of that pseudo element, which is the scroll bar, and along with that WebKit prefix, let's keep display to none. And in your browser, you can see when your screen size that will be less than 1024 pixels, you'll be able to hide that scroll bar. I think without scroll bar, it's looking much more beautiful. So you can comment out that media query code. I want to recommend that because I have seen lots of users, whenever you are in the desktop or the laptop screen, some of the users, they won't be able to scroll browser. I mean, like without the help of that scroll bar, they won't be able to scroll the browser. In that case, I think that media query, that is essential. Okay, there are other values as well that you can play with and you can get different result. Something like you can change the perspective position as well. Something like for the x-axis I'm moving left and for the y-axis center. And in your browser you will be able to get this kind of effect. Similarly, you can change that transform value as well. Instead of that translate G, you can change it to translate 3D, and within that you need to provide 3 different values. For the first value you can provide the x-axis, for the second value you can provide y-axis value. Okay, so based on that value you will be able to get different result. Okay, based on your preference you can manipulate this value. And for the last time, as you can see, for the body we have given their height manually, which was the 1700 pixels. So we need to make it dynamic as well. So for that, in your JavaScript file, you can write something like document.body.height, and you can assign, first of all, you can give their pixel unit. And for the height, how will you calculate that height? Let me know in the comment box. And also, if you want to give more depth, then you can just give section element with class name layer, and based on that layers, you will be able to get more depth. Now you can be more creative with this and you can add any extra elements to any specific layers. So now it depends upon your creativity. So that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you did learn something, smash that like button. If you have any kind of queries, let me know in the comment box. Share this video if you think someone needs it. And also, if you haven't already hit that subscribe button and also the notification bell icon. Remember, there is always more to learn, so keep learning.